I walked into a porn studio. As I stepped inside, I was immediately struck by the stark contrast between the mundane exterior and the lavish interior. The sound of cameras rolling in murmured directions filled the air, while the smell of perfume and freshly brewed coffee wafted through the rooms. Every detail seemed meticulously planned, from the plush couches to the floor-to-ceiling mirrors, creating an atmosphere that was both intriguing and unsettling. My initial curiosity quickly gave way to a sense of unease, setting the tone for a truly eye-opening experience. As I ventured deeper into the studio, I stumbled upon a room that seemed abandoned, but what caught my attention was a stack of unmarked DVDs and a ledger with some suspicious transactions. One particular entry stood out, where a performer was paid significantly less than the others, with a note that implied they were not of legal age to be working there. This discovery raised serious red flags, and I couldn't help but think that this could be a case of exploitation. I also found a contract with a clause that seemed to be coercing performers into signing away their rights, which further solidified my concerns. The more I dug, the more I realized that this studio might be involved in some shady dealings, and that initial impression of a crazy crime scene was starting to feel more and more accurate. The evidence I found suggested that the studio was prioritizing profits over the well-being and safety of their performers, which is a serious concern that needs to be addressed. As I continued to explore the studio, I eventually came face to face with the owners, who seemed rather defensive about the whole operation. I approached them and expressed my concerns about the evidence I had found, and to my surprise, they were quite open about their activities. They revealed that the studio was indeed involved in some shady dealings, but they tried to justify it by saying that everyone in the industry was doing the same thing. I was taken aback by their nonchalance and lack of regard for the law. The conversation that ensued was quite eye-opening, as they explained how they had managed to evade law enforcement and regulatory agencies for so long. It became clear that the studio was just a small part of a much larger, more complex network of illicit activities. The owners' willingness to discuss their operations so freely was both shocking and disturbing, and it only added to my growing unease about the whole situation. As I reflected on my experience at the porn studio, I realized that my initial intuition had been correct, but the reality was far more complex and disturbing than I could have imagined. The sights and sounds I encountered, the evidence of potentially illegal activities, and the conversation with the owners all contributed to a sense of unease and concern. It became clear that the porn industry is not always as glamorous or straightforward as it may seem, and that there are often darker forces at play behind the scenes. My visit to the studio was a sobering reminder that the truth is often hidden from view, and that it's up to individuals to be aware of their surroundings and to speak out when they suspect something is amiss. In the end, my takeaway from this experience is that you should always trust your instincts, no matter how uncomfortable the truth may be.